What's up, y'all? Welcome to our eighth interview. Today we'll be interviewing Cy Mendenhall. Cy has played center for the Jesuit Rugby Team for the past 3 years on Varsity. This season, the Jesuit Rugby Team won the Texas State title and finished their unbeaten season against Louisiana State Championship, Brother Martin, a game in which they won 72 to 10. Cy scored 2 tries in that win. Cy will continue to play rugby next year at St. Bonaventure University, which is currently ranked 26th in Division 1A. Thank you, Cy, for having. Great to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Yeah, so to start out, how were you introduced to rugby?
So let's see. Freshman year, I actually really want to play basketball, and then I got cut from Jesuit team, and I wasn't trying to do spring football, so I went out to rugby. The coaches got me really involved, and I would say that's when I first I guess played, but I really sophomore year. Well, excuse me, end of freshman year, I got hurt. Just like a freak accident. Nothing. It was just me not knowing how to play, and so I had to miss the rest of the season. And then sophomore year, uh, I really stepped up. I got some varsity time. We went to the state playoffs, and that really, I would say, is the start of my rugby career as it is now.
If I recall correctly, it was I remember seeing you in ankle boot.
Yeah.
Just can you go into how the mental side of you coming back from that type of injury?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just like a freak. The tackle next to me, um, they fell onto my ankle, so it was just a freak accident. But I was just kind of in my head, I was like, I don't know. I kind of wanted to really play football. That was really what I wanted to do. And so I was thinking maybe I shouldn't come back. Maybe even my dad was a little maybe you should do football. But once again, I was like, I want to give it another shot. And so I got through the whole psychological part of it and just started having fun really.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough process. From seeing all the injuries, you mentioned football. You had playoffs this year and then playoffs the year before, which went really deep.
Mhm.
How was the transition from football in the fall to rugby in the spring?
Yeah, so I would say for myself, it's a different conditioning wise. So football, we conditioned with the new Coach Woods. We ran a lot, so that kind of get me going. But the physicality aspect, I had to kind of switch tackling a little bit because they try to teach us something different in football. And then, so the two main things would be definitely, well, actually skills as well. Um, I would say sophomore to junior year, the transition was a little different because I was a little more focused on pursuing football. But my transition from fall to spring rugby was really easy actually because I kept playing. I kept tossing the ball around, and I was just ready to.
What do you think the biggest reason was that Jesuit Rugby ended the season perfect?
I would definitely say just kind of the gel we had together, and for the senior class, um, this has been 4 years in the making. I mean, Coach, we came in with Coach Upton. I believe it was his first season as head coach, and he was telling us we building on this. This is for 2 years, 3 years in the future. He told us when we were freshmen, and it came to the point where we could really do this, and I think that really pushed us throughout the season to just keep going. And we had of course, we had an extremely athletic team, great players, but really our gel together, how we built off each other, I think, resulted in our season.
Do you think this season felt different heading into it than the others before?
I think so. I would say not that other teams or other seasons weren't hungry, but we just had so much we could really do it. We knew from the start, and especially I would say heading into just the season, knowing with COVID and everything, you never know when the last game's going to be. We learned that at the end of last season. And so when we came out and played our first game against Allen, after 2 games had been canceled, we came out firing. And I would say that just we knew that this was our turn to do it for sure.
To talk about a game that was sort of postponed, I believe it was a rainout game.
Hmm.
I don't think y'all started playing till 9.
Yeah.
Just different than COVID. How did you feel during that specific game?
Yeah, that and that was our senior night as well. So we were going into it thinking that we might not even have a senior night. So we were all really praying for the weather to stop and all that. And we got there. They stopped it once. We were like, okay, it's fine, and it just kept going. And it was around 9 o'clock, and it was against a team, Alliance, I believe. And the whole week of practice, our coach was saying it's kind of like a not a rest game, but one of the easier games on our schedule. And so we kind of took practice. We just had a good time. He was kind of resting the starters for the following week, which started our second half of the season. And so all of those jitters were kind of in that game, I feel like. And then we came out and it was real sloppy, really. You could see how waiting for your game 3 extra hours to kick off, how a week of like lackadaisical practice, it showed in our performance. It was still a win, but it wasn't pretty for sure.
Well, sometimes you have not so easy wins, but
Yeah,
a win's a win, and that's good to
absolutely.
hear.
Yeah.
And then to talk about Coach Upton, he was a three-sport athlete with wrestling and the football player and on the football field, and then of course rugby, as he is a Hall of Famer. Can you just talk about how he's only lost 10 games
Right.
and he came
Yeah.
into the 2018 season? So just is there a relationship between his being on the football field and your being on the football field and transitioning to rugby?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because one, from a like physical, we were in touch the whole season. We're always talking. We're just thinking about the spring. So our relationship there is it's awesome because even we'll be getting ready for game day on Friday, and there's a little time to kill. So we talk about what's going to happen this season or what's going to happen next season, and it really builds our connection. Before every football game, he comes up to his rugby players. There's only a couple of us, and he tells us he loves us and just to go have fun. And that transitions because on the rugby pitch right before we would kick off. That's the words he says to us. Just he loves us and he'd do anything for us and just um, go out there and have some fun. And that really showed this season. So that connection we build really helps you because you want to play for a coach that you enjoy being around and who loves you pretty much. And that's definitely Coach Upton.
Yeah, I know you were invited to play for a Tropical Sevens team. How was that experience, and how was it different than Jesuit rugby?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. That was one of my. I played with the Rebel Rugby Academy. That was my second tournament with them, and it's unique because you go in there and you might have. See, we had Jack Judson and Freddie Bohill with me, but outside of that, everyone else is from all over the U.S. We had kids from California, Colorado, Florida, and it really is really cool because we have 2 practices together, and then we go out and just do the tournament, which we ended up winning this year. And it's actually how I came in contact with St. Bonaventure, and they at those tournaments you play with players that have been playing for so long and so skilled, so you really have no choice but to step up. And I would say um, my sophomore summer, when I played with a tournament like Tropical Sevens, it really just brought my game to a whole nother level because you really are just you just are thrown in the waters pretty much. It's like sink or swim pretty much.
Speaking of St. Bonaventure, when did the influx of college interests begin?
I would definitely say junior year is when the rugby interest started coming in because I had seen the prior year, sophomore year, some of our players go off and play college rugby, and then I was really, that's when I said I fell in love with the sport, and I really mean it. Like I went all in. I said I want to see what I can do, and so um, the, of course, season shut down, and so that kind of sucked. But I just spent that time thinking, how can I get myself out there? How can I come in contact with colleges? And because I realized that I want to keep playing as long as I can, and that's when I started contacting some colleges, and then started senior year. Um, I talked to a couple coaches, and it started to really pick up from there.
So, of course, junior year is when people just start thinking of college. How did you balance playing for a good rugby team, but also focusing about academic interests?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of it was kind of seeing the colleges that are, I would say, they have rugby, and maybe certain colleges are growing their rugby program, so they have scholarships to give, and just looking at those and what requirements they have academically, and just trying to line that up so that I stay on pace to obviously make good grades and graduate, and then attend a college where I can continue academic and athletics.
Like we mentioned before, you are attending St. Bonaventure University to play rugby. What are your expectations for next season?
Oh yeah, well it's a whole new environment for me, so I'm really just trying to get settled in. We have a group of right now about 15 kids coming in, and I'm super excited for it because there's kids from all over the place. We got some overseas kids coming, like a kid from Scotland, Ireland, places like that, where they obviously have a different knowledge of the game that I don't have just yet because they've played it for so long. And so I'm expecting just to try to learn from all those players above me. And our coach has a whole lot of experience. I like his style of play, so I'm really hoping to have his influence on my game and just try to make the best impact I can, whether that be make a run for a starting spot on the varsity squad or give the varsity starters the best look I can.
You mentioned you mentioned some of the people that you're going to be joining upcoming in the upcoming year.
Mhm.
You mentioned about Jesuit how camaraderie really impacted, helped y'all have an incredible season. How are you starting to build that camaraderie now with your new
Yeah.
teammates?
So my roommate is, or I guess yeah, my roommate. He is a forward. He's coming in too from Maryland, and he reached out to me a couple weeks ago and said, just hey, like I want to meet my teammates, and to me that was really like it's really nice. It's welcoming, really, because I'm coming all the way from Texas. All those kids are, if they're not from outside the country, they're from New York or Northeast area. So him reaching out really made me feel like this team's going to have a good bond. And so he said, let's put a group chat together. So we're putting group chats together. We're talking. We have an orientation in July that we will be attending. There's like 4 sessions, and the rugby kids are going to the same one. And then we go up in early August, where hopefully we can get that, like get super close preseason, so we can try to go out there and put some work in.
Yeah, and I know this
That's
seems like very far away, but what are your goals right now for after college?
Yeah. So I have a couple rugby goals. So it depending on how the professional league here is doing, because it's starting to pick up. So would that be 4 years from now? Depending how well it's doing, I'd love to have the opportunity to stay here and play. But also, I'd like to spend the summer, a year, however long, just overseas somewhere to because overseas they just have a whole different mindset that I talked about earlier. Knowledge of the game, just different tactics and skill level that if I could just play a season or whatever with, I feel like I could really step up to the next level. So rather that be overseas or here in the Major League Rugby in the U.S., that would be amazing.
Those are some great goals, and we will definitely be rooting for you. And then thank you so much, Sai, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we wish you luck next season, and wish you luck with orientation with your new
Oh,
teammates.
absolutely. Thank you.